I'm Porter William, and I've been entertaining, event planning, and cooking for over 25 years. Finally, I get to share my secrets with you. No matter if you have a one-room apartment or a grand scale estate, we'll learn how to entertain from San Francisco to the beaches of Spain, from menu planning to tablescapes. I'll teach you how to entertain from the heart. From a memory, make a memory. Join me as we entertain the world one table at a time, next on Entertaining People. Hi, it's Porter William with Entertaining People, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today, I'm cooking a fantastic dinner party, a formal dinner party for some really dear friends. You caught me just filling out my cheat sheet here. I'm just going over my menu and exactly what I want to do in the order that I want to cook it. One of the things that I've learned after all these years is you do have to be organized if you're going to entertain. And when it comes to a formal dinner party, it's a whole different level of organization. What I want you to know is that you can do it. With a couple sheets of paper, a grease board, and a pen and some notes, you can absolutely make your day easier before your guests arrive. So what I've started with is just outlining the items that I'm going to cook in order, and I'm going to put my cheat sheet right in this drawer down here. I always have it handy so I can refer back to it. So tonight is really about some glitz and some glamour. It's candlelight, it's silver, it's champagne, it's all of the things that these people deserve. They're really, truly going to be honored. Actually, it's a celebration of 20 years of knowing each other, and people who gave me the start of my career, their spouses, other people that were instrumental years and years ago when I first came to San Francisco. I can't believe it, it's been actually 20 years. And you know, when you want to plan to entertain, you really don't have to have a reason. It's not just a birthday or an anniversary. Tonight's about the anniversary of our friendship, and I think it's a great way to bring people into your house and let them know how much you care. What a better way to express your thanks and appreciation for what people have done for you, even if it was somebody who helps you unload your groceries or who helps you around the house. Make them a meal, make them a dinner, make them a breakfast. It is the best way to say thank you. So as I always say, from a memory, we're going to make a memory, and the first thing that we're going to do is what I call my mom's pate. And we're starting off with our ingredients. This is actually a chicken liver base. So we have our fresh chicken livers, about 1 pound here. We have hard-boiled eggs. We're going to use 3 or 4 at the end. We've got some white wine here, some red onion, which we've got already diced and ready to go. We've got a cube of butter. We'll always have to have our butter in there. Some hot spiced pepper sauce, French cornichons, some dill, and some parsley. And the first thing that we do, I already have it back here on the stove. Some onions with some bacon. And that's going to be the base of what we're going to be cooking to start. And what we're going to do here is we just simply want a light saute. We're actually looking to render the fat and cook up some onions so that this gives us a base. All this is going to get ground up in a food processor. What has to happen is that we need things cooked through so that the color of the pate is pure. So we're going to keep the heat high on that, and I'm going to grab my chicken livers. These are fresh, cleaned, and rinsed, but you want to put them in there with the sauce all together. We'll set that aside, and you can hear those livers hitting that bacon fat, and that's exactly what we want to have happen here. You can go up to the high heat, and we'll just let that sit there and saute for just a moment. So let's check our chicken livers and some of our onions, and those look great. Now what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to add my red onion. Oh, that smells wonderful. Now I'm doing this at the end because I like a little punch on this. I don't want it to be all cooked away, so just a little bit of red onion right there. And let's take our flame back up. And at this point, we're going to deglaze with some great white wine. You see all that sizzling? And we're going to pour that in there. And that's going to give us exactly what we want to do. Now, hot liquids, be careful when you're coming around your kitchen. So from the hearth, I'm coming right back to my board. And we're going to go right into the food processor with this. So again, tricky and careful. No kids in the kitchen when you're doing this. You always want to pour it away from you into the food processor. Everything is cooked thoroughly. The bacon, our onions, our fresh red on top. That's going to give the high notes and the flavor, just like in a symphony, right? It's mom's pate. I've got to do her well. Actually, I remember my mother making this for the first time. My parents joined a gourmet club when they were, well, I don't know how old they were, but I was fairly young. And they each had recipes that they had to make each and every month, and they all got together at each other's houses. And I remember my mother making one of Julia Child's pates. And I'm telling you, if you have guests who hate liver pate, they'll love love this. It's more of a chopped liver, so it's not a heavy French or European pate, but it's as simple as that. And right now we're gonna use our handy food processor, safe and easy, and we are just gonna, this is a creamy pate, so I'm gonna let this go for a while, and I'm gonna talk loud, just like when you hear my fan go above me on the stove. Just gonna pulse it a little bit, and I look for this beautiful taupey brown color that's in there. Now I'm just gonna let it go. It's as simple as this. Pull your top off, and you can drop in your butter, and start again. And then right in the middle of this, we're gonna just drop in a whole egg, one. We're gonna do 2 eggs, that's gonna give it some texture. I always got a smell, isn't it? So what I'm trying to correct is the consistency of the wine. Here's some red pepper sauce, anything from Louisiana, hot, that works wonderful. That's just gonna give it some balance. Right now I wanna smell the dill. And my parsley all the way in. Here we go. We should be there. That really is just about it. It's really that simple. Okay, now I'm using my nose because God gave it to me, and your nose and your mouth are connected. So if it doesn't smell good, it's not going to taste good. So think about the flavors and the smells. What I'm getting right now out of this is the white wine, the dill's coming through, and that real savory smell of the bacon and the onions that have come together. So I'm also using my mother's French pate terrine. There's a funny story that my mother always said, boy, I'd love to have a pate terrine like that. And one time my father came back from Europe and carried this in his luggage. You should have seen security while he was trying to get this through, because it is cast iron. This is Le Creuset, one of the best that you can buy, and they last forever. Careful, when you unlock your processor, we're gonna lift it up. It's as simple as that. And that liquid consistency is very important, because I'm just filling the terrine all the way up. You see it steaming up there? Wow, that is really great. Before I put it in the refrigerator, I take your basic store-bought egg slicer. I slice one of my boiled eggs, again, an ingredient inside and an ingredient on top, and I like to just lay those eggs right on top, okay? Reach over here, grab a sprig of that parsley. We're gonna set it right on the edge. We're gonna cover this and put it in the refrigerator for tonight. So as a side dish to our main course, which is a filet mignon tonight, special, absolutely special for special people, are these really simple roasted tomatoes. Now I'm having 6 for dinner, but occasionally when these get in the heat, they do tend to explode, so I always make 2 extra. So it's as simple as this. I'm gonna cut the tomato right in half. We're gonna do this on my board. These are really great. Now the best thing, there are some folks who like to put breadcrumbs on them. Some people like to use herbs from their native country. Tonight I want to use dill. For some reason I just feel like that'll be a more refreshing overtone to the heavy sauces that are going to be with these meats. So I've got 3 tomatoes, and I'm going to actually put them on a cookie sheet, which I've already sprayed with some cooking spray to make our life easy. Do a couple hash marks in the top of this. I want to absolutely work with dill right up top a little bit on each one. If you season high, you'll get better distribution on that. That's the dill, and since it's our main flavor, I want it next to the vegetable. I don't want anything in between it, so I'm hoping that it will absorb that main flavor. A little kosher salt. I just simply want to dab the top of each one with some olive oil. Since this is a fresh herb, let's do some Italian parsley. I'm using this great antique mezzaluna. And this is a pretty rough chop here. I mean, this is not, even though we've got a real refined dinner on our hands, I like to taste the parsley on this. So that should do it, actually. Let's just make sure we get that in there. Just rock and roll with that thing. Oh, I can smell that parsley coming out right now. Wonderful. All right, so we'll put that down. Isn't that great? There's nothing better than cooking with something. I mean, this is probably about 120 years old. Can you imagine the hands that touched this before me? We'll set that aside, and we'll top with our fresh parsley a little bit. And I'm gonna reserve some because I want to have something bright and green when it goes to the table. A very quick crack, not a whole lot, just to know that we have it there, and we're done. These are going to be our roasted dill tomatoes. They're going to go into the oven right over here. Pop it in. Oh, they slide around, but you don't need to worry about that. And in they go. Those are gonna roast for probably about 30 minutes. Now let's go to work on our sauces. We have 2 sauces tonight. The first one is for our filet mignon, and it's a pomegranate cabernet demi-glace, but it's no longer 18 hours of reduction and working with all of that. The second sauce is actually our gorgonzola cream sauce, and this is gonna go over our starch tonight, which is gonna be a lovely savory waffle. So what I have here in the pan is I already have some chunks of gorgonzola and a cube of our butter, which is all ready to go. I'm gonna put this on the stove and let that simmer for just 1 second. I'm gonna grab the half and half, add that right on top. It's about a cup. And we're just gonna simply let that steep nice and slow. Whenever you're working with dairy products, you want to use a low temperature so that it doesn't scorch. And that should be ready in probably 15 or 20 minutes. And now let's do our demi-glace. We're using a very, very economical Cabernet and a beautiful pure pomegranate sauce. The first thing I'm going to put in the pan is my wine. And it's basically a bottle to a bottle. We're going to reduce it all the way down. And at the same time, I can go back and add my pomegranate sauce. That's going to come up to a full boil, and then we're going to temp it way down. So let's get that up and rolling. The point of a reduction is to intensify the flavors, and what we're looking to do is to take all the moisture out of this and get it down into a sauce or a demi-glace or a very light gravy consistency. I can smell this pomegranate and Cabernet demi-glace working right now. Let's see how it's doing. I told you I wanted that at a full boil, and there it is, and it's already about half of the volume of what it was. So at this point in time, I'm simply going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of sugar. That's also going to help that come down with the reduction. And what gives it this beautiful shine that you only find in demi-glace is a beautiful hit of fat, and in this case, it's butter. Right on the top, and we're gonna stand here and stir that in. Look at that go. Now you see how shiny that's getting all of a sudden? That's the butter working with the sugar all together. And we're just gonna let that sit there and do what it's meant to do, which is reduce, and that's gonna be the most gorgeous sauce on top of our fillets. I'm gonna turn that down, and let's go right over to our gorgonzola sauce. Let's see what we have. Ah, that is looking beautiful. So we've got 2 distinct flavors here, and we're making 2 sauces at the same time. This, as you see, is coming up perfectly. Now, if I was to put that on a plate right now, it's gonna be too runny. So I'm gonna continue to let it sit here and simmer. We're gonna bring it down just a little bit, but all that is half and half butter and gorgonzola. I'm gonna finish it with a little white pepper and just a dash of nutmeg, and that's gonna completely round it off. Always serve a great piece of meat with a little bit of starch under it. Potato, piece of toast, something. But I've just got a simple cutter here and a store-bought puff pastry, and I'm gonna cut these out. I need 6, I've got 6 guests, and these are so fun to munch, I always make a couple extra ones, 7. Watch how easy this is. We're gonna pick this up, pull that off. They're going in the oven, 400 degrees, 20 minutes. When we come back, I'm gonna take on our first course, which is a sheared onion and sausage and mushroom cheese tart. We're gonna work with some puff pastry. Let me get out the ingredients, and I'll be right back with you. So tonight for our formal dinner party with some really dear friends that I haven't seen in a long time, our first course is going to be a sheared onion, sausage, and cheese tart, and it's going to have a beautiful, beautiful red pepper sauce on the side of it. What I love about this is that it really combines a lot of different flavors, and there is a lovely, lovely flavor of white wine in this as well. It's a pretty heavy starter, but I know that my guests are going to be hungry by the time they get to the table, so I want to make sure that they've got something fairly substantial as we begin the evening. So that should do it for our mushrooms. Let's take these over here and add them to our onions. You see we've got some onions caramelizing, and I'm just simply going to add my mushrooms to that. Very simple. In a big mix, sometimes it's just easier to flip it than it is actually to mix it. We'll get that going. Oh yeah, that's going to be beautiful. You can see all the caramelization going on. And before you got here, actually, I began on my Italian sausage, so we have that ready to go. We're just going to let that, oh, that's perfectly brown. Again, when working with a sausage, we want to be fully cooked. Even though this is going to go into the oven again, I like everything well done right when it starts out. We're going to add that, our sausage, to our mushrooms and our onions and all these great flavors. And I'm gonna just raise the heat up on that so I can hear it. I'm always cooking with my ears and my nose, sometimes my eyes, and always with my mouth. Now let's add the cheeses to this. Store-bought cream cheese, 1 cube of butter. I'm also gonna go ahead and sprinkle in my Parmesan cheese, a little bit of cracked pepper. We're gonna just grind some right on the top. A little bit more. Oh yeah, that looks good. And let's do a little bit of mixing. Go ahead and feel free to break up that cheese. This is gonna be a very soft, smooth filling is what we're after. And it really requires just a few minutes with the lid on it. Right now it's coming along perfectly. We got a jumper there. And then I wanna go ahead and add some white wine, little deglaze. Oh yeah, there we go. Whew, that is fantastic. That is absolutely wonderful. So, always the white wine. Tonight I have a couple people in my party who don't drink alcohol, so I'm gonna make sure that I'm cooking this all the way out. So all it is a little bit of time. So this is just gonna continue to simmer, and I'll show you exactly how we put it into the pastry in just one moment. All right, what you're seeing here is true reduction. Do you remember how much liquid we had in here? Just let it continue to bubble and cook, and this is actually ready. We're gonna pull this off. I'm gonna turn the heat off on this, but while I'm over here, to save me a few steps, I'm gonna check in on my gorgonzola sauce. Now, look how thick that's gotten. That's beautiful. So just a whisk to bring that up from the bottom. It's just been on a low heat this whole time. And then, of course, we have our pomegranate Cabernet demi-glaze, which is coming along just perfectly. That's gonna go lovely over our fillets. All right, let's start with our tart and bring this back to the hearth. We've talked about store-bought puff pastry. It's as simple as this. Entertaining is so much fun if you really can just distill it down. I'm gonna keep some of that liquid out of there. But let's go ahead and just pour our filling on there. Generous amounts. We're gonna spread that out. I can smell all the cheeses in there, the mushrooms, the onion, and of course the wine is really coming in. Beautiful. Cooked out, so all we have is the flavor left, none of the alcohol. I can set that aside. And I'm just gonna touch up the edges. We wanna make sure that we're all the way out on this, simply because the edges are gonna burn if we don't have the filling into all the places. Don't let those stragglers run away from you. Pick up your other sheet, nice and easy here. We just wanna unfold that, just like you were making a bed. Got a secret little package here, and kind of hang it and stretch it and just eyeball it and see when they're right about the same, and drop that right over the top. A couple quick cuts in the top. It's gonna look great. Helps the steam vent, and we're gonna put this into the oven. Here we go, 400 degrees for about 30 minutes until it's golden brown. Wait till you see how that comes out. Really great. I'll have it for you in just a quick second. You know, making dessert, it's just as fun as anything else. I have fun with all of it. I don't really care what it is. It's the appetizer, the entree, I'm not so much for the cleanup, but I do it. And when you entertain, you really do have to minimize that as well. Right now, I'm peeling these gorgeous poached pears. Absolutely lovely. They feel great in your hand. You just know that they're fresh and easy. And I'll tell you about the memory on this one. It's really not that extravagant. It's actually the memory that you're having right now. I first learned how to do this sitting with my mom watching Julia Child on a cooking show. And we watched her peel these pears and poach these pears, and when you see this thing come out and plated, you will not believe how impressive it is. I know they've been done before, but it really is one of those standards. I talked about cooking what you know, and it's gonna be great on a night like tonight where we're busy and we have a lot of things that I've got to get out. I really just need to put something in for dessert that I know how to do already. So we're gonna poach some pears. Make sure that your pears aren't bruised, and you really want a great stem. See that? Make sure you get one with a stem, and you'll see why once I get it on the plate, but we want that beautiful pear shape. They do need to be at least 3/4 of the way covered with the liquid, and we're gonna actually use a beautiful, beautiful red rosé. Got 2 wines mixed as my poaching liquid. And we also want to make sure that we always put everything in cold. When working with fruit like this, if you drop it in the pan, you're going to bruise it. It's going to ruin the presentation. So nice and easy, lay that in there. The way that these are served is that we slice them in half. So each guest gets a half a pear. All right, I've got 6 guests coming, so I really need only 3 pears, but you know my rule, right? 1 extra, no matter what. So I actually have 2 extra desserts. It's always fun to send somebody home with that or to have it for myself later. In the event that something goes wrong, I drop a plate, and believe me, if you're like me at all, you've done it when you've been entertaining. Just cook 1 extra serving of everything. And by the way, when you do the stem, just turn it upside down and just clip right around that. And when it comes to a peeler, I know for years I had a $1.99 peeler in my drawer. Invest in yourself, buy a peeler that fits your hand. I've got large hands, so I use a large peeler. But you really need to have control of these pieces so that you don't damage them. And look how beautiful that lovely pear is. We're gonna poach it. You're gonna love the way you taste. It's gonna be great. So very simply, we're gonna just add our red wine and rosé together. We're gonna fill up our pot. I have a little bit more over there. And it's sugar. That's all we're doing, folks. That's our poaching liquid. It's that simple. Beginning on a low heat on my pan. It's time to check on our puff pastry plateaus for our fillets. Let's see how they look great. They look great. Actually, those came in a little bit smaller than I was planning. Maybe we'll make them top hats, but for right now, that's perfect. I think they're gonna work out wonderful. Pears should be done at this point. Those look fantastic. These are set, ready to be covered and put into the refrigerator. We are coming into the home stretch. I know when we're talking about entertaining people really from your heart, it does take some work, and with a dinner party like this, we do have a lot of courses, but they really are gonna be special. I wanna introduce you to a new idea of mine that I've just recently tried, and it's really combining a memory, once again, that I always loved. Did your mom ever make you breakfast for dinner? I remember sometimes when my dad was away on business trips, my mom would say, "Boys, do you just want breakfast?" And she'd make waffles or pancakes, and there was something about having breakfast for dinner, because you just weren't allowed to have breakfast for dinner, that made it such a treat. Tonight, what I've come up with is a savory, lavender-infused Belgian waffle. And this is gonna be the starch on our plate, and that gorgonzola sauce that we've been talking about, it's gonna be dredged in that entire thing. I've got 1 egg in my bowl right here, and I'm just gonna simply start whisking, just break that up. And I've got 2 cups of a pre-made waffle mix that I'm just gonna add in there, and also my water. So we're savory, right? That means no sugar, but a little bit of salt in that, and this is our French lavender. We're gonna put our lavender in there, and I want this a little fine, so I'm grinding it up as I go in there. You could find this at different specialty stores, but I think this is gonna be a beautiful, beautiful touch. Instead of regular vegetable oil, we're gonna use olive oil, just about 2 tablespoons in that. So now you understand the basis of where we're coming from. So look at that in there, looking good. Now, anytime you're making a batter like this, you're gonna have to control the consistency. It's not a pancake, it's a little bit thicker. And the last thing that I'm gonna do to splash on top of that is just a tad more oil, just to make sure that that's gonna move out okay for me. All right, so I have my waffle maker all ready to go, and I've chosen one that has 4 waffles. I have 6 guests, which means I only need to do this twice. And they should hold in the oven pretty well. So we always want to coat any waffle maker, make your life easy with a good cooking spray. Get it completely coated because we don't want those to stick, and you know it's ready when you see that steam. Let's ladle this in. Now you can see that I've got 4 waffles here, 6 guests, right? So I'm going to have my 2 extra by just dropping this in. And we're going to fill that up. That looks wonderful. I can smell those herbs coming through the waffle iron. Oh my gosh, I remember my mother's waffle iron. That thing was something else. These are really great. I think these are gonna be good. I think you're gonna really enjoy them. So we've got a square waffle, and my plan is to cut it in a triangle, right in half, and to stand those 2 pieces up, or just to lay them crisscross on each other. And then we're gonna put that beautiful gorgonzola sauce all over the top. So imagine we're gonna have our filet on our puff pastry with our pomegranate red wine demi-glaze, and then we're gonna have our starch with our lavender-infused savory waffle with a beautiful creamy gorgonzola sauce. That's our potatoes. So we've got our meat and potatoes, if you will. We're gonna have our beautiful roasted dill tomato, And then I'm just gonna throw in some green beans that you'll see very quickly. I'm just gonna toss them in some boiling water, do a quick boil on them, shock them in some cold water, dress them with a little bit of lemon and salt and pepper, and that's gonna complete our plate. I've never served guests waffles for dinner, and I think it's just gonna be a gas. Let's see what's going on down here. Okay, these look like they are ready. My waffles are done. And I've also added the other starches that are gonna go on my main plate on the same cookie sheet. It's just gonna be simpler for me to manage when my guests arrive, because we are trying to put out 6 plates, and this is not a restaurant, it is a home kitchen. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut these on the angle, as we talked about earlier. And you can see that some of them came out perfectly square, and some of them have some ragged edges, but I'm just gonna cut those off and turn them to the underside of the plate. Well, we are really getting down to the fun part. So remember Mom's pate? Here it is. Look at that gorgeous, gorgeous tureen of pate. The eggs on top, and in front is my grandmother Judy's sugar bowl, her old tarnished silver sugar bowl, which I put the French cornichons in, which is exactly what you've got to serve with pate. And over here is my Grandma Joan's silver jewelry box. And I filled it with bread for my guests because these are important people to me. So when they come in tonight, they're gonna be eating from vessels from all the women in my life who certainly have taught me how to be a better man. Yes, that came out exactly like it should have.
Tune in next time on Entertaining People as we finish our menu and greet our guests. You won't want to miss this.